Nice, nice. Okay, so we are live now. Anyways, I'm just going
Oh,
to
okay,
kind of.
good.
I just hit it exactly the moment that I brought you into the stream, so I'm just going to share them to the old social media pages because I don't know.
Sure. You
The link.
betcha.
Not too many people get the notification, or at least I don't know if people just. That's the thing. It's hard to tell because people say they've clicked the bell, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a YouTube thing. It's kind of like that shadow banning, right? I get it all the time. People say I didn't receive the notification for your live, but
Yeah.
it's hard. But you gotta do your best to share it out there and get it out to the people, right? And
Exactly. But actually, you know what? That perfectly aligns and actually correlates with the kind of stuff we're probably going to be talking about
oh,
today.
for sure. Yeah,
Because that's the thing that kind of drives me nuts is the whole personal because and
yeah,
I mean that's the thing when you're born and raised in a country, and as I've become older, I realize, yeah, no wonder the most ambitious, the productive, the entrepreneur usually travel the US because their culture is constantly all about that stuff. But in Canada,
yeah,
it's like
yeah. I agree.
offloading the responsibility on no, but that's what socialist countries do. Like as you creep towards, and of course America is creeping towards it too. But think about it. What is socialism? You're offloading personal responsibility onto someone else externally, namely government. Right?
Yeah,
And that even perfectly correlates. And then, when you have kids in the internet age, like the millennials or the Gen Zers who've been raised by a lot of people that they've watched. Let's offload a lot of personal responsibility and place that in the hands of politicians, right, or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah. Well,
So they're seeing that, and then there's not really an incentive or that where they've been raised to take that personal responsibility, that mantle themselves. So now it is an issue, even when you're talking about social media, because I've heard it myself too, how people love to talk about, oh, I just didn't get the notification, but now I get that, and even if everything what you said was true, and I watch Project Veritas, right? So I know
yeah,
that
it is true.
so that there are some
Yeah,
people within these institutions that definitely do
yeah,
play politics,
yeah.
but because I know that, and because I think most people know that, it's like, okay, well, if I want to see what's going on Leo's channel, guess what?
Yeah,
Critical thinker, boom, it's right there the minute I type it in. It's not like they
that's
hide
true.
it. Like I can find your channel in
Yeah,
2 seconds, right?
but the live streams are a tough one, right? Because I try to give notice to as much people as I can prior to, because people are doing something and all of a sudden they're driving in their car somewhere because they didn't know you're about to go live. Well, what can they do, right? Or they just didn't get the notification and then they went on and made plans. I give people the benefit of the doubt. You can only you work in the confines of
That's
a
probably
program.
why you and a lot of others are probably become more popular than I am these days, because I just know I can't do it. I
You
wouldn't do
have
it for
to.
my kids. No, I won't. I won't have to. I don't have to, and I definitely won't, because like I say,
Well,
personal responsibility. I know how I raise my sons and how they act, and
yeah.
it's like, no, if I did it that way, then I would expect that they probably wouldn't be the best people. But what it is I get with that, but I've shared it, like even this stream, I shared it
Yeah.
on my Facebook page, my Twitter page, and
Yep.
my Minds page. So even if
Yeah.
you didn't get the notification, or even if you
that,
don't see it now, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. No matter how many excuses you try to come up with, I guarantee I got one that'll knock them down every time. Because like I say, even if they don't watch it now, let's say you're busy, you're at work, you don't have the time.
They'll watch it later.
I mean, if you're following me on Facebook, if you're following me on Twitter, if you're going like I say, in the age of information, to constantly pretend, I just didn't know. It's like, okay, well, it's blatantly in your face. Like if you care, but what it is a lot of people it's not even so much that they care, and they just what it is, they just don't want to be honest or forthright about the reasoning behind why. Yeah. I think a lot of it would probably be just like, to me, and that's the thing. If you're honest with people, then you have a way that you can make better decisions. If you're being manipulated or lied to, every decision you're making going forward after that is go ahead. Sorry.
But Bennett, I think you're kind of confusing a lot of things together. I understand what you're saying. Or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is the way I see it. I mean, you're looking at it from, well, I put this out, I put that out, but there are people that, and I didn't realize this until I asked the viewers. I said, well, why aren't you getting notification? I did exactly that. And I put their feet to the fire, and they said, because I spend limited time on the internet. I don't have a phone. I don't look, I don't, I read, I do this, I do that. And then when I go on, unless I've had a personal email or something like that, so there are people in those concerts, and I also understand what you're saying too, that Yeah, people just another channel came up, so that one was better, so I'm going to watch that. You know what I mean? I get it, and I'm not here to. Yeah, they have to own what they do, and that's fine. If they missed it, they missed it. They watch it later. That's up to them. I don't personally get offended if they do or don't.
Yeah,
It's either a missed opportunity for them or not.
You're very new, man. Give it 5 or 6 years of doing the same thing, and then watch everything go complete. Like I say, if you've done, like I say, you have to put in the actual groundwork first before you can, like you say, it's like the new guy, and you've worked, right? The new guy that's just started picking up the hammer and telling the guy that's been doing it for 50 years that no, this is how you do. Not to suggest that even the young guy that's picking up the hammer cannot come up with a new idea, because that's the thing. I would never deny the fact that. But I mean, come on. Like I said, I've been at this long enough. I've gone through the even to this point, I still have a decent subscriber count and all. What it is, and like I say, I base it on actual evidence of what I see and not speculation. Yeah. And a lot of it I attribute to tremendously, well, especially the growth in the drop off in terms of views. It's mostly PBC people that were all about playing politics. Now that politics is done, so to me, it's like, then why, if you're all about playing politics, then at the very least, in a way, I'm kind of, those are the people actually I'm a little bit grateful for, because then it's like, okay, then I don't have to deal with them anyways, because I would rather a couple hundred views, but people that actually genuinely care or think critically about these things, and not playing these politics, because to me, that's. And every time I try to come up with ideas, and I get surrounded myself with people that aren't really idea people, they're just like, oh, I hate Trudeau so bad, I just want him gone. It's I get it. I get that. But while we're fellow travelers, while we're walking, it's like, I don't want to just be a gossiper. I don't want to be the guy standing around the water cooler talking about how terrible of a person Justin Trudeau is. Let's deal with actual ideas. I'm an ideas kind of person. And it seems like today, the people that want to, I mean, if they want to get it out from underneath Justin Trudeau, and that's kind of actually the important part why I called this regarding liberty in Canada. If you want to get out from underneath the Trudeau or Scheer, if he comes, whoever it is, then you have to talk about and discuss the ideas. And to me, the idea is, if we keep playing politics, it's not going to work out. To me, I mentioned this the other day, and I think it was one of the reason why I want to start this conversation with it is, the 4 questions. It took a lot. I had to listen to a lot of people. I had to spend years and years listening to philosophers, intellect, like people from all different areas of historical context, psychologists, lots of people for me to get to the enough information in my head to be able to actually put that all together and come up with something. And the 4-question, to me, rather than playing politics, is the 4-question quest for freedom is something I kind of made my own little thing from.
Yeah.
That, to me, if you want to help educate and inform people rather than talking about politics, because in terms of politics, they're all still if you keep telling people that they all have the authority of you, they're going to pick the lesser of evil, right? So to me, the most important thing we can do if we're going to try to get the Canadian people to change the culture, which is what you need to change the way politics unfold, is you got to tell them that, hey, the emperor isn't wearing any clothes. You have to actually point out first and foremost that first of all, none of these folks have any legitimate authority over you. Now, not to suggest that we're going to unwind or eliminate government tomorrow, but at the very least, if you don't give people that knowledge first and foremost, which is basically the fundamental principle of what it is to be free, is to recognize you're not supposed to have a ruler in the first place. That's like trying to build a brick and mortar house without the mortar. You got to have that foundational component, because without it, the rest of it's just going to collapse the minute you try to build upon it. So to me, that's what we need to do. And talking about, rather than this constant where we all are, whether it's you or I won't even bring up all the names of the people that are YouTubers in Canada, but talking about different aspects or unique, some people are single issues like the gun rights and stuff. I get all that, and that's great. And I'm glad that we're all having these conversations. But what I'm saying is, all these individual conversations, they're great to have. But if we don't all at least kind of unify under one thing, which is that none of these people have any legitimate authority to do anything what they're doing to us. Not one iota, and it's so easily proven. Without that, I just don't know how, other than 10 more years. What I expect is, if we don't start doing something soon, in 10 years, if there's anything left here, is we're 10 years later and we're all basically just sitting around doing the exact same thing. But anyways, I just want to get your response from that. Or two that issue.
Well, it was a bit of a mouthful there, Ben.
I know.
Look, at the end of the day, I'll digress right back to the beginning when you talked about the channel size and all that sort of stuff. I mean, look, I was honest with people at the beginning. The real thing that I wanted to hit was the milestone of 1,000. Just for the certain things that it opened. After that, I don't know if I really care. I'm looking for organic viewership. That's, and to me, this isn't about you listening to me. This is about us learning together. I get engaged in live streams for a conversation with the people in the chat. I talk to them. They tell me their thoughts. I tell them their thoughts, and we engage in a community. That's the way I run my live streams. And I'm not pretending like I know everything, because I sure as hell don't. But together we're going to learn, and together we're going to move forward on a responsible path.
Right.
As far as the small things, damn, that's a tough one, Bennett. And listen, if I can just compress or segue for a moment here, I do want to thank you. I do want to thank you for sticking with it, man. I know you kind of, you had a bit of a lump a while ago, and look, I was there.
Yeah, I made the mistake of diving into politics. That was the first mistake I made.
Look, I was there with you, and I understood the frustrations you were having. I did. I've had the same problems, and I've just looked at it this way: if you enjoy what we're talking about, what Bennett's talking about, just stick with the channel and enjoy the chat, right? And learn and grow, with the host. But I mean, other than that, it's, organic listeners are what it's all about. Organic people that want to do this are what it's all about. And I don't care if I had 1 million. You look at the channels with 1 million subscribers. So what, right? They get 4,000 people watching it, and 200 come to the streams. I mean, it's not about that, and I've learned to just let that go. It's not about subs or I'm grateful for people who want to join the conversation. Now I think that I'll get back to the rest of it, but I did want to just say thanks, Bennett, for keep doing it, man. And it's tough to be on this side of the camera, right? Everybody, I use the Teddy Roosevelt, the man in the arena. Have you heard that? That saying?
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that one.
Okay, well, look it up later. But it's basically about the man in the arena, that we're in here, right? Getting the scars, getting dirty, getting down. We're fighting, and those people out there are in the seats, in the cheap seats, and they're throwing criticism at you. That's easy, but you don't know what it's like to be down in the arena getting dirty. You don't know how tough, how much of a badass that takes to do. And I'm not trying to pump our tires here. I'm just saying it's a tough deal on a daily basis. So kudos to you, man, for keep going. I just want to say that.
Well, thanks, Leo. And for me, I just got to say, this is the part where, whether you're coming at it from an objectivist standpoint or a libertarian standpoint, I don't even do it to be altruistic. And I try to explain that to people. I guess that's my blatant honesty, but my blatant honesty, I prefer that rather than shove and smoke up people's ass. And I totally get that the shove and smoke up people's ass will work for popularity reasons, but I don't I don't do this for popularity. Like I've said to people many times before, if I wanted to be popular, I'm really big into like racing machines. I know 100% if I created a channel that was on that and just made that my focus, I'd have way more. And I know that, but to me, that's not. But at the end of the day, that's not what matters. But the reason why I do what I do and why I don't need anyone to poke or prod me is now, and I have to think, maybe if I didn't have kids, maybe this wouldn't be such a big deal to me. But because I recognize it's not just my future, I do it for the selfish reasons, which is, well, of course, I want to be free. Like for me to live free as a human being, I need the rest of my Canadians to be willing to allow me to live freely, right? Because that's the thing. I can talk all day long how there's no such thing as a legitimate government, which is absolutely 100%, and I can prove it with 100% consistency. But if all my neighbors and everyone that surrounds me believes, right, if they're believers, then I might as well be just as enslaved as they are, because they have their mindset is going to keep me. So to me, for me, first and foremost, and of course, everyone recognizes, as much as people try to pretend that they're all altruistic, most people at the end of the day, it's themselves and the immediate people that they care about is who. Be damned to everyone else. And I get it. Like, if you have extra compassion and everything in your own personal life and all your personal family members and all those friends, if everyone's doing great, then you might have a little bit of extra compassion to toss around everyone. But most people at the end of the day, they like to put on the rhetoric that they care about everybody in Canada and we're all one, but it's not the case.
Yeah.
And what it is I recognize that, and I
hear what you're saying.
By pointing that out, I know it's an uncomfortable thing for people to deal with because we've been raised in an environment, whether it was through the religious teachings or through the state education that you got, it was this constant where you must sacrifice yourself, your happiness, who you are, for some concept of the greater good. Now that's not, and when you tell someone
that, I agree with that.
Exactly. Well, no, because it can never be, right? Because what is the greater good? Like, to me, it sounds good as like a postcard, like a Hallmark moment, right? Sacrifice for the greater good. That sounds great. And tell you the truth, it's automatic instinct especially for men, right? Because oh, that means I got to sacrifice myself. I got to defend against the hordes and protect my peace, right? So
that's a movie,
right? Exactly. But it is. But what it is, they realize that psychologically in our lizard brains, they realize, oh, that appeals to people. The problem is that's also the way that they turn you into a good little slave, because that means you'll conform to their whims, and they're like, oh, now I can do whatever the hell I want. They never challenge me because they're doing what I demand of them, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead. Sorry, Leo.
They make themselves relevant in that war, and I see so many people telling me that it's time to stand up like the brave soldier, take arms and go to the hill, boys. We got to drag them out of there.
Yeah.
And I always use the casino. So the federal government is like Bellagio's. Okay, people don't understand what I mean by that, but it is. You take your gold, you go there. Right? You take your gold, you leave it at the door. They give you a plastic friggin' circle worth what? Nothing. You think it's worth something. You walk in there and you play their game, and you're a good little person and you're a player. They take your money. You gave them the gold for nothing, for the hopes and dreams that they gave you. Nothing at the end of the day. So now people want to say, well, they're not fair. I hate Bellagio's. I'm going to go take the owners out. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Right? Good luck. Oh, I'm going to be one of the security guards there, and then I'll fix it. Will you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that going to work? The owners will put you in jail. End of story. Okay.
Yep.
Second thing, I challenge people. All right, it's one thing to shoot at a target. Now look at your fellow man and say, you're in my way of my freedoms. You think you're man enough for that?
Yeah.
You may say that today, but tomorrow's a different story. Police officers do the same thing, right? Military are different. I mean, they are trained to do this. That first one is never easy, but I'll tell you what, it's not an easy it sounds great. It sounds like a great movie, but I'll tell you what, to go out there and do that is a whole different story. So this is why, I think it's important we have this conversation, Bennett, that people need to understand it's not a glorious thing that we're about to enter. If you think it's going to be a glorious movie, taking the hill and getting our freedoms back, it is nothing like that.
Exactly. And to me, and that's the part that I think is so fundamental, and why I want to have this conversation with you, is because for all of us, and I'd eventually like to have a conversation for those who are genuinely concerned about this and not just trying to play a popularity contest or play politics. Because I hear people say it all the time, like they just genuinely love politics. To me, it's like even to me, I get that and I understand the whole thing. Like, well, you have to deal with politics, because if you don't deal with politics, politics will deal with you. It's you can pretend away, like you could try to avoid politics, but so I get that we fundamentally, because there is such thing as a political system and a lot of political actors want to impose their will on it, we have to pay attention to it. But people that seem to be enamored with the process is like, okay, if I kill a deer, I got to go and gut it. Is it the funnest thing I've ever done in my life? Right? No. So let's stop at least pretending, or the people that actually enjoy that's like, you enjoy that kind of macabre. You're a little bit, there might be a little bit something wrong with you, right? Genuinely. And that's why I, especially after the whole BBC, there was just what it was with it is there was so many multiple redundant layers of fucking disappointment that I experienced.
Yeah. I agree with you there.
And I had my hopes up so desperate. And I knew even when I started delving into it, I knew it's like, oh man, I have people that are like purists in terms of anarchists, like full on like philosophical libertarians like myself. And I knew by delving into politics that some of those people would be kind of, oh, Bennett's kind of sold out a little bit, right? And so I was already kind of, and these are the people actually that I had the most trust and mutual respect with. And I kind of even let them down to a degree. But to me, it was like, okay, I'm going to try the pragmatic approach in this, because I hear people like, I don't want to be just someone that's high-minded and just because I understand the ideals and the ideas to get it. It's like, yeah, okay, but if they only reside in my mind, what fucking good are they? It's like, you're not in the forest when the tree falls, is there a sound, right? I don't know. But anyways, but to me, so I was like, I want to because just like when I'm building an engine and everything I've ever done, or building a deck or my porch, is every time I do is trial and error, right? Because if you only try one thing and if it doesn't work, well, then you should at the very least be willing to try something else. So what I did is I said, okay, the PPC was a new party. It seemed to be there was at least the term libertarian being tossed around. Now, of course, they were using it negatively, but at least the media was throwing out the term libertarian around once in a while.
Which is kind of Max's base, right? He bases things off of that, I suppose, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So to me, it's like, okay, well, at least we're getting that term, because to me, it's like, it's all about, really, at the end of the day, it is branding, because if you want people to start learning things, because even myself, it wasn't until I even heard as a Canadian, until Ron Paul, like watching the whole 2008, 2012, I had to tell you the truth, I had been watching American programming for most of my entire life, but I never even heard the term libertarian. But once I did, and I heard what that guy was saying, I was like, holy shit. I've never heard one politician before or basically since that talks such like clear and concise language, like honest and forthright, and saying things that no politician was willing to do. And it was that blatant honesty in the face or the onslaught of all these statists. It's like, who is this guy, and how does he have this much courage and conviction? And so to me, that's why I mean with the whole thing was, if we can play off the whole Ron Paul thing in terms of politics, because they were even trying to say that Max was the Canadian Ron Paul. It's like, well, then we'll get a whole lot of Canadians. Well, at the very least, and I think that actually did. I think one small benefit was there definitely was probably a lot more Canadians that looked up what a libertarian was. Wow. But a lot of them also, instead of looking it up, they probably just listened to what the media, the media portrayed it.
Because it's easy.
Right. And they're like, oh, libertarian, that must mean they don't care about anything except they're just selfish and
and I mean, even the construct of the word selfish is wrong in its definition, right? People don't even understand that.
Yeah. Ayn Rand explains that best.
I mean, okay. Well, we might as well start with the PPC. I agree with you with what happened. I don't think what you did was wrong at all. I think you needed to prove to yourself and to everybody else, because you probably had that very small part of you that said, well, what if I'm wrong? And this is just me speculating. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but
no, go ahead.
This is me speculating. I'm thinking, and I did the same, right? I'm like, okay, well, this is our last hurrah. And the results were astoundingly no. Canada is not Canada. If you're a nationalist thinking nationalist means the whole nation of Canada, you need to redefine your definition of what nationalism is right now in Canada. I'm sorry. That is just the truth. If you don't believe me, go ahead and stick your nose in Toronto, go stick your nose in Vancouver, all the major hubs, and ask people what Canada is today. You will get different answers. Half of them won't even care. Canada, I don't know. I just live here. I crap in the shitter and I do it. That's Canada to them. There is no north and south like there is in USA. Okay, so getting that out of the way. Nationalism is BS. I'm sorry. It's not what you think it is. Right? For those who go out there and say, I love my country and I don't want it to separate, you have nothing you can do. It's done. It's already done. The federal government and those behind it have done that for you. That's over. Get over that. It's done. Okay. Now we have to decide how we move on. I was looking at the PPC as the last hurrah. People are saying, do you know what we did in a matter of a year? No party has done that. Who cares? What did it accomplish? Nothing. Nothing. We got nowhere. We played horseshoes and we didn't even come close enough to score a point. It's over. Right? The establishment, the casino, they don't want you in there. And they will, even the conservatives fought against conservatives in this race. Do you not understand that? The Warren Kinsella thing, who hired them? Okay. They don't want you in there because you're about to tell the truth.
That's right.
Okay. So why are we going to this casino? Why are we still wanting them damn circles? That's my point. Well, now, and me, you and I may have differing opinions on how we deal with it after the fact. But the point is, they need to become irrelevant.
Yeah.
Stop going to play the casino, figure out a system out of it. That's the path forward. Like if you want to, the Titanic, you want to arrange the deck chairs, go ahead. Enjoy the view as the ship goes down because it's taken on water. I'm doing this with the lifeboat.
Yeah, right? And that's exactly what's happening right now. And my biggest fear is obviously I don't know when they're going to, because it's a minority government, there's a potential of trying to go through another election again. But whether it happens in 6 months, a year, or a few,
what does it mean?
I don't know. I like I say, I've already myself personally, I've already gone through 10 years. In more than that, but just to make a nice rounding number.
Yes, sir.
10 years I've watched, a decade of my life I've watched it. I've put in a tremendous amount of work and effort to try. And I don't want to wait another 10 years because I don't, like I say, what's going to be left and the kind of mentality or psychology of the what represents the typical Canadian in this country is going to be so foreign to what anyone even thinks represents, like the old, Western values in terms of freedom. And it's so far removed from what even, like I say, all the founding fathers. Now, Canadian founding fathers were much different, obviously, than the Americans because the Americans were rebellious. But what you're looking at today is not even like, at least they were kind of like close relatives or close neighbors or first cousins, more or less, right? And they kind of at least had somewhat of a similar background and kind of similar understanding in regards to like the old world monarchies of Europe and how terrible and detrimental that was to the individual and how important. But like I say, we like that, and you were kind of alluding to it earlier, is that whole pretense that like we're all in one big happy family of like we're just all fighting for the same goal, or that we're ever going to get to that point. It's like, come on, you have to recognize that there are millions of Canadians in this country are so reliant on that kind of big government, which is why it's come to exist. Why do you think that's what it's like? Why do you think it come to be this way? Because there's a tremendous amount of Canadians that want it to be that way, right? They obviously want Trudeau in power. I mean, if you're a statist, if you're a big government lover, if you love your socialism, tell you the truth, Trudeau has probably been the best thing that's ever happened to you, right? Like, so you're gonna do everything in your power, and we see it. The media. I mean, the CBC, in addition to lots of the other hacks that contribute to a lot of the established media, they're constantly promoting this universal basic. They want to bring in full socialism because actually that's how they function. Like the people that work in the CBC, they function under that wealth redistribution model. So go ahead.
Well, if people don't believe what Bennett just said, if you're questioning whatsoever that socialism, that they want you to be beholden to the government, let me ask you this question today. Who are the only people that are not affected by this shutdown? Who's still getting their paycheck today? Anybody attached to the government? The politicians, so nurses, doctors, all those people, anybody who has a police officers, they're all getting their paycheck today, and they're not bitching and complaining. Nope. They don't care. Yeah, well, I took a government job, suckers. So you have the choice too. You're right. I do have the choice. And I'd rather work off of my own sweat than the sweat of all of you.
Yep.
Right. And those people need to give their heads a shake and understand this is exposed the whole system right now.
Yeah.
And people aren't getting it. When the dust settles, the only people who are going to come out of this is the government workers, anybody who is getting paid. And I don't mean paid. They're actually getting bribed by the government to stay within the confines of the government. Now, all these other, I hear people every day saying, damn, I wish I would have had a government job now. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
But that's what they want.
Yeah. Well, in addition to that, Leo, just off the top of my head. So in addition to the 4 questions, which I think is another very fundamental aspect, if you want to help bring people around, because if you just do that, because the beautiful thing about the 4 questions is they have to ask them for themselves. If they like, you don't even have to do it. You say, here's the questions, go off into a room, private yourself, ask yourself, and they'll have to come to that. But in addition to that, it's the fact that, and I try to promote this constantly, but I seem to be still the only one that wants to, and to me, it's like, I'm surprised even people that maybe disagree with me or have a fundamental difference in terms of politics with me and stuff, I'm surprised they haven't taken that round, because to me, what I realize is I just think about what would be the average Canadian, whether you're, no matter what your skin color, no matter what your background, no matter what your heritage, what would be one thing that most people would share in common? Would, at the very least, is, now people can be obviously somewhat cruel to their children, but I think most people in Canada or anywhere in the world should at least fundamentally agree that it's a really, really bad, immoral, unethical thing to economically enslave entire generations of people that aren't alive today to pay for people that are like, and to me, I keep trying to hammer home on that message, but nobody wants to pick up that mantle. Nobody else wants to join. So I'm one single voice in Canada that's constantly, and it's like, well, my voice, I mean, I got a pretty good voice and I can yell if I want to yell, but
that's fair.
Not across 37 million people, right? So if we could, to me, that's another way, and especially for the ladies, right? For the ladies among us, because that's where the nurturing thing, and I'm sure most ladies, maybe some guys or a lot of men, like, well, that's not as big as, but I'll tell you, I would imagine, especially because that's another thing I was saying because I'm lucky that I have a few ladies that join my streams. Like, I don't want to be a sausage fest either. Like, we have the men and women coming together to recognize how important it is to promote individual liberty. And like I say, whatever works to appeal to, because certain things are going to appeal to each and every one of us. Like men and women, we do have fundamental differences. Some things that will appeal more to men, which is to step up to be the protector, right? If you want to appeal to that part of the male psyche, then that will work for certain people. Not all, once again, but especially for the females among us, is appeal to their compassion to children and the unborn. Because to me, like I say, that's what we're seeing today. And if you look at Trudeau with the $200 and some million, like, we're not even nowhere near. And I remember I was listening to a CBC radio program, and they actually let it slip, but that's because they realized most people that watch CBC are people that love that stuff. There are a few of us that have to swallow the bullshit, but I just want to hear what they're saying. But they basically had to admit during that CBC radio program that, you know, the debts are we're still paying off debts from the Napoleonic times. Why? Because debts never, ever, ever, ever. You've never seen one time in Canadian history where the debt went to zero, right? You've seen where the deficits have dropped off, where there's certain years or maybe a couple of years in a row where they're not outspending more than they spend, which is what a deficit is. But the debts are always increasing. And because they constantly increase and you just keep rolling it over, well, you know, in a private sector setting or any setting outside of government, not one Canadian alive, I don't think would be willing enough. Now, they might in their mind, but no one would actually be willing to vocalize in public to any human being that, I'd like to economically enslave my kids. I want to buy a new house. I want to run up my credit card debts. And when I die, I hope my kids are forced to pay for it. Most people are like, no, that's immoral. That's unjust. That's totally unethical, right? So to me, it's like, well, then if you wouldn't do that in your personal life, that's exactly and precisely what governments are doing today. And the reason why the people that are even the big government proponents today put up with it is because if you had to pay as you go, if taxation was at a level to pay for all these entitlement programs and these unfunded liabilities and all these bailouts, then we'd all be taxed at like basically 100% of our income. And people would be like, okay, we got to stop this. Hello, I need at least $10 out of my paycheck, right? To at least pay for the parking. But meanwhile, because we're offloading those costs onto future and successive generations, and the Canadian taxpayer that are alive today is like, well, I'm paying a shitload of debts and taxes, but they still at least give me like basically half my income. So, and I'm getting, and some of them are like, but I'm getting more out than they take from me. Whereas it's the flip side for most of us and for future and successive generations. They're the ones that's going to have to pay off these debts. Actually, our debts are what they are today to try to pay off some of the debts of generations in the past, right? And if we keep thinking that you can just keep rolling over costs incurred to successive generations or debts or deficits, then you're basically, you're basically admitting as a Canadian citizen that you think it's ethical to economically enslave people that have no say in the matter. I just don't know very many Canadians that would actually admit to that.
Yeah, that's so there's in my mind, it's a huge construct where people just look at. This is where people are at today, and I'm using a broad stroke here. I don't mean to. I don't know any of you in the chat either, and I'm not trying to put you into a label or a group. But I'm just looking at Canadians as a general, because the ones where you go to work and they don't even know when you talk about any of this. They're like, you know what? I just pay my bills, I pay my taxes, I go home, watch my Netflix. That's sort of a Canadian. That's what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, a lot of them are just disenfranchised with life. There's no meaning to it other than, what they see in front of them. It has to be tangible. And what you're talking about, Bennett, and I completely understand that, but it's invisible. People don't understand that. They just see that I have a mortgage. Well, of course I do. I have to pay for it. I have a credit card. There's a number. I have to pay for it. Yeah, the coronavirus thing is now going, and I'm sorry, I hope that doesn't affect the channel, but I don't know. But, you know, well, who cares? I know I'm going to have to pay more in taxes because of, they're paying all these people and trying to help them all out. It is what it is. What am I going to do about it? That's just the attitude of people today. And you're so right that we have to change the culture somehow. It isn't going to happen now, but it's got to be done by an example.
Yeah.
I've been kind of preaching, saying that Alberta, to me, because I'm in Alberta, is the closest I've ever seen to a culture saying, we're done. It's over with this crap. And I'm hoping we can set a great example and be the catalyst to the rest of this country. Now, I don't know what Ontario is going to do. I don't know what the rest of them are going to do. But if we can get that done in Alberta, let me tell you what, it is going to be stronger than Quebec, because we can do it on our own. We have everything we need right here within our borders of Alberta. We have it. We just need to get it done. We need the people to understand that. Once people start seeing that, they're going to, what? Yeah, but Alberta's paying 10 cents a liter for gas? What the hell? Why are we paying $1.25? Yeah, because the government takes $1 of it, my friend. That's why, right? They're stealing from you. You don't get. Yeah. So until it affects them personally, I think is the point I'm trying to make. Until they see it out of their own pockets and see an example of another system working, nothing's good. 95% of the people are followers, 5% are doers.
Right. Yeah.
So we need to change it. And there's going to be a lot of disenfranchised people, a lot of defeatists saying, well, you can't do that. Are you stupid? Well, have you tried? No. Oh, okay. Well, then why don't we try? Why don't we hit failure before we fail, before we even start, right? And that's what I'm trying to tell people. You need to go. Get your feet on the ground and move, because we're taking on water. And if you're not ready, you're going down with it too.
Yeah.
So decide today. Where do you want to go with this?
Well, and I don't like to be very pessimistic. I try to be as optimistic as humanly possible, because it's good for my own mental health, right? But I do kind of recognize, because like I say, I always correlate, because it's quite an easy thing to do, because like I say, if you understand human psychology, incentive is just like in your family setting or structures. How would you incentivize your children? Just like with governments and citizens, how do you incentivize? Well, right now, people are incentivized to constantly do the wrong thing. So
yes,
at the very least, if you could remove that incentive structure, which is what the separation of, because it's the economy predominantly. I mean, of course, they try to propagandize people, but without the economic ability to enslave people, they like propaganda works on some people, and it wouldn't work nearly as well if they didn't have the power of the purse as well. So to me, like I say, getting people to understand the importance of exiting stage left, in terms of, like, in Canada, there are certain things that you're not going to get around, where you have to use the Canadian dollar, but there are options and alternatives out there where you don't have to keep feeding the beast, and we know this, and there's ways to be anonymized while you're doing these things. Even in the US, that's the thing. If we were in the US, they have such a better way of doing, or a better psychology, because there's even US companies that'll take blockchain, like cryptocurrencies, right? So actually, you could get paid in cryptocurrency, you can buy things with crypto, so you can actually kind of exit stage left and not feed the beast at all. Whereas in Canada, we're basically, there's very few. I think maybe, I'm not sure if Shopify, but there might be a couple online outlets that will allow you to use cryptocurrencies. But I mean, that's just one of a multitude of things that people need to basically stop allowing the government to economic slave. Because as long as you're constantly and forever using that Canadian dollar that's constantly devalued, they're always and forever going to have an ability to use that against you, because they can devalue it anytime they want. And even with these bonds, right? The reason why they can promise these investors, oh yeah, no, we can print 30-year bonds or 50-year bonds, is because they're saying that no, the Canadian chattel, oh no, they'll still produce. Oh, don't worry, we'll be able to squeeze the milk out of them anytime we want, and we'll be able to promise that. Whereas if you could show, like through GDP numbers, or there was something where the next quarter is like, whoa, a big huge chunk now went into what they let them call it the black market all they want. I don't really care. But if they could show these long-term institutionalized investors that, nope, actually the Canadian people are wising up, and your bonds aren't going to be worth the paper they're printed on, because when you go to cash them in, like I say, the people aren't going to be there to provide for you, because they've already exited stage left or right, and they're using a completely different form of economic transaction that you can't control, you can't centralize, you can't dictate, all those things, like I say. Or if you want to use gold, if you're not even into cryptocurrencies or all that, like I say, gold, silver, bar, like every single transaction that you do that you can remove, because the government is, like I say, take it. And even at that 44% tax rate, that's already plenty enough, obviously, but it's not enough to fill the coffers up and to keep them in surplus. So think of how much more detrimental it would be if you could reduce by a tremendous amount, let's say even half, so they're only getting 21% of your income. Well, they're going to have to search for, once again, the investors, the ones that are the bondholders are all going to be looking, well, where are we going to make up for this other 21%? So, and once you've affected the psychology and the bottom line of these institutionalized investors, then those are the ones. You and I have no power over politicians, the ruling class. They fucking look at us and they laugh, because they're like, oh, these guys are nobody. Let me tell you, there's some people, like I say, these institutionalized investors, the ones with the coin, right, is that you start affecting their bottom line and their ability to make out like bandits in the future, then they're automatically incentivized to be like, okay, tell the political class, well, hey, whatever you folks are doing, you're not just fucking up the masses like the sheeple. Now you're messing with us, right? Because to me, that's really what has to happen. Is we can do all our little things that we do individually, which is great, and I'm thankful for that. But like I say, we need to get to some kind of general understanding across the board in this country, whether you're in Alberta, New Brunswick, is we got to figure out what needs to take place. What are the ideas? If you want freedom to flourish, what are the ideas that are going to take you there? And like I say, that's where people like myself, that's where, and not just me, because I listen to a lot of other people. So I even adopt some of my mentality from people that have thought about things. And I just kind of think of myself and figure, okay, well, in Canada, how can I bring that to Canada instead? Because I listen to a tremendous amount of people from all over the world that are trying to figure these things out themselves. And like I say, first and foremost, before you can do anything, is getting on board with the fundamental understanding. I know it's hard for people, because they're like, oh yeah, but I want my party in power. But like, if you can get to the point where people are at least agreement,
what does that give you?
No, but if you can get people up to the agreement of or understanding of the government, break them free of that doctrine mindset. So they don't think that government is legitimate in the first place. Then they'll be more susceptible to be, okay, what's the remedy for this? They'll be more susceptible and willing to listen to that. Where if they're constantly only told that the only way we can ever get out from underneath this is we just got to wait till the next election. I don't like I say, I think if we keep waiting for the next election, what happens is we wait until the entire society and the economy breaks down, and it's civil war before the next election ever.
It's a casino. That's the election. Look, and agree or disagree. And I try to tell people that, they don't understand what a party is. You are giving your power away as a person to another individual to vie for you, rather than saying, listen, this is what you need to do for me. And those 400 people said the same thing. So go out there and get it done. You work for us. That system isn't here in Canada. You all believe that that's what the government does for you. Now, I showed this, Bennett, in many channels now have talked about this, the court case against a person named Little Child in Alberta. I don't know if you've heard of it, but essentially the guy was he was an MP, he used to vote against the GST. They elected him in Alberta, got centralized like every other MP does, goes to Ottawa. The whip, the party says, no, you're voting for GST, buddy. I don't care what your constituents say. I'm the boss. Okay. They sued him. The judge said, we can't do nothing. The party has the power, not the people. I can give you it's a court case. You can look it up. But if you don't see it right there in front of your eyes, I don't care if it's Maxime Bernier. I don't care who it is. They are not beholden to you. If Max decides tomorrow that he wants this and you don't like it doesn't matter. You can't hold him to account. You have to believe in that person, that they're going to do right by you. And that never works out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The party system is not a good system. It doesn't represent the people.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is not even in terms of, because to me, the best thing that works is to not, because I think we kind of both recognize that the system is so inherently corrupt now.
Yes.
It literally incentivizes only the worst. So to try to put the good people in there to change it over from what
it's
you
garbage.
do is just like what the geniuses have done in the tech world. So none of us, like for me, but because big government still has a tremendous amount of power, because people are psychologically believing in that. But think about social media or news in general. Why do you think the establishment media are so, I mean, they're like just thrashing around like a wild wounded beast, right? Because they realize that their model has been completely, and what it is we all know today that, I mean, basically, and if you look at whether it's the CBC, Global News, most of them don't have much in terms of actual investigative reporters. Most of them get their news by the AP wire, like Associated Press, that actually does have investigative journalists, people that actually do the real work, or let's say Reuters, and then CBC, Global, CTV, all they do is take that same story that someone at the AP did the actual reporting from, and all they're doing is copy and paste it to all their, well, we can all do that. And we've shown how disruptive
we do a better job than that.
Right? Exactly. So what I'm saying is, it's not a matter of putting the right politician in there. It's to make it so that whatever you need. So perfect example of like I say, oh, they're destroying our money. Well, okay. Well, you like I say, do transactions and don't use government money, and you avoid it. Just like with media, don't use establishment media. Don't pay these don't pay these hacks a dime. Let them starve. Use alternative media or social media. And once again, you didn't have to fight them. You didn't have to protest. You didn't have to petition. You didn't have to stand outside their buildings and say, we want you to close down. All you had to do is just ignore and avoid them to the point where they because they have to function offer some kind of an economic model as well. Now, CBC is going to be much more difficult because it's actually institutionalized and funded by forced wealth and income by way of taxation. So that's going to be a little bit more difficult. And that's why the government right now under Trudeau is basically trying to hand them out and start use government largesse to bail them out as well, because they realize without them repeating and regurgitate and keeping the Canadian people indoctrinated in this statist mindset, they realize that, well, we lose because social media will win. Well, like I say, take every little example that you think of that you need a politician or government for, and just find a way, whether it's you and your community or you and other people, because like I say, we have so many tools at our disposal today, and find a way to create a whole new way of doing things that you actually avoid government entirely. So we don't have to go into violent revolution. Banking or contracts. Like think about historically contract. Well, you had to go and hire a lawyer. You had to do, I mean, not saying you shouldn't still be able to have legal advice, especially depending on how complex the contract may be, but blockchains, contracts are now as easy as printing them up on a ledger, and it's built on encryption so that nobody can manipulate it. You can't deceive like what the actual, so everything that you've ever thought of that people think I need government for, there's almost every sector of the economy or society, there's now tools at our disposal that you can show with real world. Because if you show people, rather than just say we don't need government, if you show them, look, you can do this without government, then be like, oh, okay. And whether they like government or not, if someone sees something that functions better, then they'll automatically gravitate to it. Just like if you go to a store, if you can get something that's higher quality at a better price, you're like, yeah, I'll take that. It's like, even if you're loyal, right, you're going to still choose. Most people are still going to choose something of higher quality.
to an extent. I mean, but I mean, we're talking again. We're talking construct. We're talking. I mean, I know we're spitballing here, but the end of the day, what we need to do is get people together and sit down and say, what the hell do you want?
Yeah.
Right. That's what it comes down to. And people don't understand that. Everybody's all scared. Oh, well, if we get rid of the government, what do we do? What do we do? We live freely. We live the way we were intended to do.
Yeah.
Now, how do we do that? I don't know. Let's sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
But they've taken that away from you. The more and more they, all of these things are meant. Let's go back to 1982 when Trudeau Sr. created the Canada Act. What did he do that for? To centralize the government, folks. He took away all the province's power and voice That's a good start. If every province at least said, you know, screw you, to at least that part of it. You know, and I don't like it at all. I'm with you, Ben. I don't like it. But just to give people oh, what do you mean? My province doesn't have to listen to the federal? No. And then you break it down from there. Okay, now that we're a province with a voice and power, why do we have someone like Kenny ruling over us? Why don't we, the people, tell Kenny what the hell we want? And I think it's just going to take time like that, Bennett, because people, they're not ready for the whole jumping out of the airplane. I don't see that. I don't see a lot. They need, you know, it's uncomfortable. So it's got to be a few landing spaces for them.
But
I don't know.
That's the thing. If you tell it to them the proper way, they're recognizing that they're not jumping out of an airplane. They recognize that actually they're walking into like a beautiful open field.
Absolutely.
Of freedom
they don't. You need to give them examples of it. And I don't think it would take that long. I mean, Kenny, in a way, is kind of doing this, but he's doing it for himself, right? To make himself look good. Yeah, I hate the whole politic discussion because
all of them, because what it is all of them, every politician in this country from coast to coast, every single one of them, what they're doing is, and I get it, like they're countering. But to me, it's like watching a football or a baseball game. It's just two teams competing because they're all, at the end of the day, they're all acknowledging that, but we all play for the NFL, right?
You all play
all playing for so it's all, they all represent government. They all represent that I have some pretense authority that my political edicts should now, you know, you should conform to my political edicts. Everyone, now, I get it. Like some people, especially if you're conservative, would say, well, listen, if I'm going to have a ruler, Kenny's way better than Trudeau would be. And I totally get that. It'd be no different than back in the day if you're living on plantations. 100%, you know damn well that there were certain plantations where the master was like, I only whip my people one time a day if they don't get 200 pounds of cotton per day, right? Whereas other people, I whip mine 10 times, right? So there is going to be a lessers of evil, but at the very least, can we all recognize we're all on a plantation? Because if you don't recognize that you're on a plantation, which is why, once again, you have to get people, how did slavery end? It wasn't by through of even brute force. It was by telling the American people in the South is slavery is immoral, it's illegitimate, and it's unjust. That's what and then the people were like, well, yeah, and allowing that freedom to take hold in the people's mind, and then how it played out subsequent to that, like, you know, it worked out fine. Just like oh, what would we do without government? Listen. Or just like the slaves on the plantation. Well, how would we ever pick cotton? Like, even if you didn't have an industrial machine to take up the slack, well, I'm sure they were out there picking cotton, so they obviously know how to pick cotton. So it'd be a simple matter. Well, listen, once you leave the plantation, go buy yourself a plot of land, create your own plantation, have all voluntary employees work there instead of slaves, and you'll still be able to do the same thing, because it comes down to the end of the day, it's like freedom is truly, it's a state of mind. And really, that's, to me, the most important thing that we can do as Canadians is, instead of playing politics and pretending that we're, because really politics is like saying you're Catholic or Protestant, right? But you're still saying that you're believing in, right? And to me, some people are always going to want to be Protestant and some people are always going to want to be Catholic. Whereas at the end of the day, and I don't even like to use the religious thing because it has different connotations, but when you're talking about government, these are people that actually have genuine, like, I'm like God. I'm not worried about God coming and taking a portion of my income or having a sidearm to control everything I do. Or if I step outside, they're going to write me a fine, or, you know, that's not going to happen in real life. But in real life, people that believe in the state, and especially their enforcers or their order followers, it's that, right? It's not, I'm not even worried about the couple hundred politicians or the few hundred politicians in the Parliament building, because they're fucking, most of them are just a bunch of frail old people or like little ladies, or like,
they're not.
It's the fact that their enforcers believe in that authority.
Yes,
I agree.
Will
basically do whatever they say. Which is why, to me, the most important thing, if we're going to get to freedom, is like the foundation is to get people's mind. And like, if we keep talking about politics, you're never going to get people to break free. Like, if you're an atheist, you want people to stop being religious fundamentalists, then you can't keep saying, no, Catholic's better than Protestant. You have to say God doesn't exist, right? And I'm not to suggest that God does or does not exist, but I can say with 100% certainty that Trudeau does not have any legitimate authority to dictate or control you, me, or anyone else in this country, right? Now, the sad part is that most of our fellow Canadians believe in that, so they keep us enslaved as well, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the things here, and
for sure,
in the chat, but Again, I see this even, in the conversations I have been, and people still, I see Twitter everywhere, right? The other day we were talking about, Alberta just needs to say screw it, and then it's PPC needs to come in and lead Alberta. You missed it.
Yeah.
Right over your head. No, the people need to lead Alberta. Why would you want another damn party to come in and lead it? You don't need that. They don't want to listen to you. If you heard the other day, I don't know, they were, I think Mark was talking about that. Well, we're creating our own constitution in our party, and you're more than welcome, but you have to be a part of the party to help. Why would that be? Why can't just everybody create I don't know, let's just create a constitution without a party. One that we all just say, this is how we're going to friggin' live. Okay. This is how it works. These are the rules. We have 2,000 years of education behind us. Yeah. If we can't figure out what we did wrong in the past and create a constitution moving forward for all of us to take care of ourselves with our own accountability without a damn party or a politician, then we've failed as a society and we deserve to crash and burn. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Well, that's what I'll even add on that. So libertarians, if you think about it, if you go all the way back, even if you want to talk about the ones that identified as classical liberals in the 18th, 19th century post the Enlightenment era, we all, like I say, they already had the fundamental understanding in how to do that. And the thing today is what it is generations there hasn't been the proper generational thing where you kept teaching your kids and their kids like the fundamental aspects of how important it is to maintain those freedoms. They've slipped over time, and people have been offloading that responsibility to the political class rather than that personal responsibility of teaching their kids, right? So that's even most parents. You don't teach your kids shit about freedom. No, you send them off to school and hope that somehow the education system is somehow going to teach them all these things, but it's not in the incentive of people that work for government to tell your children that government is illegitimate, right? You're not going to get that from two. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as a teacher that won't do that, because there might be the odd one, right? But not very few and far between. But to me, it's that what I understand today is we have, based on, if you go back all the way to Aristotle, 2,000 years, we have all the philosophical understanding. And I've now heard enough after 10 years of this. And if you can't even imagine, Leo, how many different scenarios, but I love it because as a libertarian, I love being challenged, because that's what I'm all about. But I've heard people bring up, well, the old one that I remembered was the first one that people used to love to bring up is, well, who will build the roads? But I've heard in the last 10 years, since I've learned about what libertarian is and what the philosophy entails, is I've heard people say, or not just who will build the roads. Oh, well, how will we pay for healthcare? Or I've heard every single possible scenario, even the most crazy hypotheticals. Like, it's like, you really think that that's going to happen? But I mean, even some of the most outrageous hypotheticals that you would ever conjure up that might be a 1 in 1,000 year lifetime event, right? But I've even heard competent libertarians even put forth a perfectly legitimate and clear and concise rebuttal to, well, you don't need government, and here's another awful potential solution for that. And usually a libertarian will say, okay, I just offered you a potential solution that does show you that, you would have just as much a chance of that being a successful outcome as it would to look for government. But even competent libertarians will say, even though I've offered you that, I'm even going to say, I'll go even another step further and say, but you don't have to go by what I'm telling you, because the beauty of a free market is maybe you can come up with something even better. So that's right. So there's no centralizing. It's just what works best. Just like as if we set 10 of us on an island, it wouldn't take long where we'd figure out, hey, let's get Bennett to build the cabin because he's got construction.
He knows how to do it.
Right. And maybe Leo go do, I don't know, maybe you've been a good avid hunter your whole life or something. Or, I don't know, like you could, but it would be, it's not like you need some central planner to organize societies. Societies will naturally do that. And not saying that bad people aren't going to try to do bad things. But once again,
of course,
what best opportunity can we as each individual have to guard ourselves against people that want to threaten us, than to have the freedom to do so. Right now, what it is government is basically tying one hand and one foot behind your back and saying, we'll take care of you. It's like, well, wait a minute. I think if you actually unbound my hand and foot, look, fuck, I could probably stand on my own 2 feet here, right?
It's like Bird Box. It's right? Bird Box, right? You're looking around thinking, I don't know. It's coming from everywhere and I don't know what to do. What do I do, government? It's a crazy, but keep in mind, it's taken them a while to indoctrinate people with this belief. And
many generations.
It is, and it's good. You're not going to fix it overnight. You're not going to be. No. That's why I say it's kind of you have to reverse it. People. Yeah. The cognitive dissonance is so thick, right? Well, what do you mean I don't have to pay? Well, you don't. It was a temporary war measures. Well, yeah, but what are you going to do about it? Not pay? They'll put you in jail. But what if everybody said we're not paying? Yeah. What are they going to do? We are the owners of the government. They can't fire us. They can't put us in jail. We own the government. We do? Well, of course we do. We pay. If we don't pay, that means we refuse. But here's a good analogy to do this, Bennett. And I think this would be great. So you and I are going to do this. We are going to come up with some good ideas, right? I believe we're going to do a better job than Michelle Rempel or any of the other MPs out there. I believe what we're doing actually helps the people more than them. So you're paying them $140,000 a year. Just pay Bennett and I $100,000 a year. Right? You don't mind paying them. You don't care. So let's fire those two. We'll take $100,000 and save you $40,000. Right? We don't want benefits. We don't want anything, but we just want to just pay us blindly. And it doesn't matter whether we accomplish this or not. Just pay us, because that's what you're doing to the government. Right. But who's going to build the roads? We'll tell you, we'll make it happen for you, or you can do it on your own.
But see with me, and because I don't have that, and I never have actually had that kind of thing in me where I have to play and dictator, and we can all do it because a lot of us we'll think like I know a better way. But to me, what I think, and like you were even just saying just a minute ago, is so yes, and I recognize it's taken generations of indoctrination to get us to where we are at today. Now there are only two possible scenarios as far as I'm concerned, and if someone else can come up with an alternative option, then I'm more than willing to listen. But is that slow unwinding? But once again, that's a generational development that's going to take a hell of a long time. And I'm not even saying that we should forgo that. I think that still should be a long-term project. Like I say, that you don't put on the back burner. You actually implement that, but in conjunction to that long-term project, because we don't want to wait generations. I've been running through my mind. What is the only time where I've actually had a conversation with someone or myself, my own personal example, where it actually did break me free from that mindset, where I did start venturing into the rabbit holes or get red pilled or whatever, whatever you want. It was the shock of learning that there's no such thing. Because like I say, like for most Canadians today, if you told them that, it's how in the hell is that even possible? Because it's almost like us walking down the street and stumbling on, the largest, most rarest diamond on the planet. It's like, how am I so fortunate? Because I still feel 10 years later, I still feel like I can't believe that I understand this concept, and I can't believe so many. It's like the kid that learned that there's no such thing as Santa Claus at 7 years old. Everyone else in your class still believes in it. To me, it's like the best thing I can do is. And I don't know what they're going to do with that knowledge, but to me, the most important thing is to get everyone else in my classroom to realize, hey, Santa Claus isn't real. And what they'll do with that knowledge, I have no idea. But at the very least, if we can tell that, like, show, and like I say, because it's something that you don't have to rely on my opinion. Because if it was based on like my subjective opinion, I have to be a really good salesman. And just by sheer fact of look at my social media pages and my YouTube. Am I a good person in terms of marketing? No, I suck at marketing. If I was good at marketing, I'd already have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, right? So I'm not in it for the marketing. I'm not in it for because I think that people will respect my personality or because I dress I try to look at least presentable and all that stuff, and I try to have credibility. But at the end of the day, it's that amazing bit of knowledge that I have in my head that if I offer it to someone else, and I don't even have to rely on them saying, oh, well, if I'm right or wrong, because they'll recognize, like I said, and I've run this before, whereas if I don't have an authority, and you've heard me say it, right? Like I don't have the 4-question quest. So I'll just run it real quick for anyone that hasn't heard it yet. So the first question is, so if you were to talk to a complete stranger or someone you know, the big thing to me would be to deal with, and like I say, it doesn't have to go across as confrontational, because as soon as it's confrontational, you're getting the cognitive dissonance, and then they're like, I'm out of here. And they're going to make an excuse to say, yeah, you're an idiot and goodbye, right? And then you've waited. But like I say, if you say, so can I just point something out to you and ask you just a few questions for you to answer for yourself and see if maybe we can figure out, is government truly as legitimate as we claim? And then, like I say, so if you just say, so I don't know, let's say Julie. So, hey, Julie, do I have any legitimate authority to take any portion of your income without your express permission? Well, she would obviously have to admit, I mean, no sane human being is going to say, you do. You're going to say, no, that'd be theft. If you took anything against without my permission, it's theft. And then if you say, okay, do I have any authority, legitimate authority, to ask my neighbor to go take a portion of your wealth or your income on my behalf without your permission? Well, no, you're just getting your neighbor to do the dirty work. But you're still, you don't have no authority, and neither does your neighbor, right? Obviously, they would admit that. And like I say, they're answering the question for themselves. You're not putting the answers in their head. They're the ones that are coming up with the idea, which tells them that's like, oh, well, I'm pretty smart there. So it gives them that the right kind of the right kind of reaction to it, because they're not trying to play the defensive thing. And then you say, okay, what about if I ask not just my neighbor, but 25 other people in my community of 50 people, let's say, right? What if I get 25 or 26 people in my community to go take a portion of your income without your permission? Would that be legitimate? Well, no. Like, no matter if you do it, your neighbor does it, or you get a whole gang of people to do it, there's no way you get from point A to B, because it's all illegitimate. No matter how many people you do, if you get 1,000 people, 10,000, it's all illegitimate. Okay, well then how do politicians gain their authority to take money, a portion of your income? Oh, well, people vote for it. Huh?
You believe it to be.
Right? What is voting for? You're basically saying, I don't have the right to do it myself, but if I write someone's name on a piece of paper, boom, magic, that authority that I don't really have, it translates into, now I've given someone an authority that I don't possess. Well, if I don't have that authority, how can I give it to someone else? Like, it's an impossibility. So like I say, and you get to that, and you can use I use two different things. You can either use the taxation route in terms of economics, or you can also go about it in the social thing. So do I have the right to dictate how you live? So rather than using the money thing, the economic thing is, do I have any legitimate right to dictate how you live? Do I have the right to get my friend to dictate how you live? No. So really, at the end of the day, and most people will come once they've got through, and once they've broken through that, then then they're like, okay, then they're usually at the point where it's like, okay, I get that's all fucked up, but then we're finally in the place where we can start to hammer out. But I feel that most of Canadians haven't even gotten the overwhelming majority of cases don't even have a clue that whole 4-question quest thing for freedom, it doesn't even exist in their mind. So until we get to that point, we're never going to get to the next. Like, you have to get over that very, very first hurdle before you get to continue on.
And here nor there, I have conversations with people. Like you say, you're right. There are a lot of people but even on the other side, there's the defeatists. So what are we going to do about it? Whoa, it is what it is. I'm one person. What can I do? Yeah, but if everybody knew that they were one person with the power inside of themselves, how many people are in Canada again?
Yeah.
Right. Even if 20 million of us said, screw that, what would they do?
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing. But we're all just one person at the end of the day.
Yeah. But we're all, but each one of us, one person represents a huge people, right?
Yes, exactly.
And that's the thing. And have you ever seen Larkin Rose? He had a little video back in the day called the Tiny Dot. Yeah. And he does that with an actual, and it's really funny because it's like really low grade animation. It's just a bunch of little balls, but he shows basically like, this is what represents like your ruling class. And then you make a little bigger circle. Well, that's their forces. Let's say there's even 100,000 because he's American. Right. But then if you look at the population, it's like, holy, like it's so overwhelming that each individual, and when people sell themselves short on that whole individual thing, I can't help but think that's so goddamn Canadian. Because Americans are very much all about one individual can do a tremendous amount. And that's probably the reason why it was Edward Snowden living as an American, having that American mindset, which was the reason why, and he showed one dude, Edward Snowden was one guy, but look at the profound effect he had on giving us, I mean, now, do we still have this shit happening? Yes, but I am so profoundly thankful that Edward Snowden gave us these revelations, because now, prior to Edward Snowden doing that one thing, right, they could constantly just pay you and I. If we said, oh, the government's spying on everything you do electronically, they're storing all your information in these big giant servers. And they even had a whole term called collect it all that James Clapper promoted, right? Yep. But if you said that, you'd be like, okay, that guy needs a fucking tinfoil hat, right?
Hat,
Get that guy his tinfoil hat and hurry up about it. But thankfully, Edward Snowden, not only did he bring this information light, but he actually had the documented proof, which was what was required, because without the proof, it'd be just a matter of they just call him a nut bar and we would have never been any further. But what he did as one person is he helped a tremendous amount of people learn a truth that they can't, you'll never forget that truth. Now, you might want to try to avoid it or ignore it, but you're never going to forget once you've learned that truth. And to me, that's, like I say, that's that first step that we in Canada have yet to do, which is why we, like I say, to break anyone free out of this psychology or this mindset of statism is you first and foremost have to tell them, yep, the emperor has no clothes.
Well, that's exactly it. And I guess there's many ways to get there. I mean, as you know, I work with the Mythos Canada to help people understand that the government itself is de facto. What that means is they're illegal and unlawful. They elected themselves to be your tyrannical ruler, and it is tyranny. If you don't understand it as a tyrannical leader right now, understand what they just did with the gun law, which was an OIC, order in council. That means no one got a vote. No, not even the parliament seats in nothing. Trudeau just said, as a minority government, I'm doing it. With a de facto governor general. Okay. Well, they are illegal and unlawfully ruling over you. You don't have a choice. Okay. Exactly. We, the people, don't have a voice. The parliamentary people don't have a voice. It is a tyrannical government. Get that through your head. Why don't I want to back the PPC or any other party? Because I don't want to keep feeding this beast to rule over me tyrannically. Bennett feels the same, I'm sure, this way. Bennett, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I hate, but I believe we're kind of on the same page. We don't like this. No. We want to deal with it ourselves with these, right? And our own two hands.
Yeah. And the very fact that right enshrined within the Constitution, basically they gave themselves like an escape clause, like like the fact that you put that, I mean, like to me, it'd be a simple thing. Like if you're going to talk something, especially for the folks in the Alberta and they're all about gun rights and a lot of them are conservative. Come on. I mean, look down the US. I mean, at the very least, the US, it says right in there, not to be infringed. There's only four extra words, but those 4 words have made the difference over 200 some years since 1776 to today. The reason why the Democrats, the lefties, the authoritarians, the commies, the socialists, the fascists, the reason why they haven't so far been able to convince judges or the masses to support the disarmament of the American people is because the founding fathers were wise enough to make sure that if we're going to find anything that we consider or deem as be an actual right, they were smart first and foremost to say it's given, your rights are inalienable by, whether you want to say God or just as a human being. Now, our document, the Charter of Rights, states that we're supposed to, recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. But the difference between the Canadian Charter of Rights and the U.S. Constitution is there was nowhere in there where they gave a little line or a little disclaimer, or a little exclamation mark, or I mean, whatever the word I'm looking for, asterisk that says, by the way, but we leave this, but we have the right to take away all those rights anytime we please. Because if you were reading that document when it was originally drafted, whoever the politicians were, alive and part of that process when they were drafting the Charter of Rights in Canada, every one of them obviously let down their constituents by not pointing out the very fact. Yeah, we wrote this thing up that says you have all these rights, but by the way, we can take them away anytime we damn well please. Because like, if someone had told me that at the time, it's like, well, then it's not even worth the fucking parchment or the paper it's written on, right?
It isn't. Here's the crux of the matter. The American population was involved, right? We, the people. That's you can't see it, but I have it behind me here anyway. But we, the people, and I believe in that. And I know you kind of wondered, what the hell are you talking about, Leo? We, the people. That's just a construct. It means that you have the power individually as we, the people, right? A collective, but as individual people.
Can I just say one thing real quick before you continue?
Okay.
Because but it's exactly what you're saying. And I'm only going to take 2 seconds so you can continue your thoughts. So don't forget. But when you say that though, but the we, the people is, what are they rallying around though? It's what was contained in the Constitution, right? Yeah. So it's not that they're saying we, the people, because of that we just all happen to share, like, that live in the same continent per se, or certain, it was the we, the people represented that this is what defines we, the people. right? That's why people chose to rally around it, was because that document said that, because like I say, whether you were black, white, although back in the day, slaves, I get, was a little bit, but at least if someone read the document, be like, oh yeah, respect my freedom of speech. And so we the people, what made people want to feel more collective or have a sense of a collective group or in-group preference for a particular thing, is because what defined we the people was this amazing
Constitution,
social experiment that was set up, that differentiated it from everything else on the planet. What it is people that chose to become Americans were like, holy shit, there's all these places around the world. They all got kings, queens, monarchs, or people that, but yet there's this one new place, and there's no other place on the entire planet like it, that said that it's we the people, and it's not your rulers, it's you.
It's us, individuals.
And you know what? If we had something even, but that's a cultural thing, right? Because you got to get people to believe in. Now, if you had something like that, I'd be all for it, because once again, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's the problem with it today. And so I challenge, in the same way that you do, I ask people these questions. So I love it when a person says, damn it, Trudeau just sent $80 million to Africa. And I said, well, why are you mad? Because he's taking my money. And I said, oh, okay, well, I appreciate that. So why didn't you tell him not to? Well, he never asked me. And I said, well, that doesn't sound right. If this is actually a system in which we all believe in, and you say you believe in the government and it's doing best for you, when did he ever ask you your opinion? If he's doing this on your behalf, where's your vote and where the money goes? And they're, well, we don't, it's all okay. So why do you keep voting in the system that doesn't represent your beliefs? Well, what else are we going to do? Well, you walk away from it. You create your own system that represents you. So that's the whole we the people thing, right? That's what we all sit down at the table. We write that damn constitution, like Bennett just pointed out, that says we are different from all of we don't need a queen. We don't need a king, because we are the ruler of our own domains, ourselves, our individuals, our families. We decide what we want is best for us. And we tell those representatives to make that crap happen. They work for us. And if you don't, you're out. I mean, I don't care. We can send you to the gal. I don't know. That's in the Constitution. Whatever the rule is, whatever the notion is, but those representatives better know that if they don't represent us, there's hell to pay. There's accountability now. When you think about how this all started with the Canada Act, Trudeau acted on his own and his own authority, no one else's. He went to all the premiers and said, sign this friggin' thing, which was illegitimate to begin with. That's why it's de facto, because you and I never had a voice in that. People above us said, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to believe we have the power. As Bennett has pointed out many times, I have the gun on my hip, and I have fear over you. That's what it is. It's not power. You gave it away. Our responsibility now moving forward is to take our power back as individuals. That's what Bennett is trying to teach you. That's what I'm hopefully trying to teach you as well. That's what everybody's trying to get the message across, right? That it's here, not there. You don't give them the power. And if they're not listening to you, it's time to walk away from it.
And another thing I think works out too, Leo, I'll just offer as another, this will be the third one that I'm offering in terms of ideas, because I think once again, at the end of the day, it's what strategies have I seen that actually seems to be somewhat successful, and what do I think other people might be adopt that would work too, is, like I say, just do the thought experiment, because I think people like that too. If you do the thought experiment with, like, let's say there isn't anywhere, because Antarctica is not exactly a place I want to move to, but let's say there was a completely new area on the globe, like what the founding fathers, if there was some place that was, not so developed, and you could move and start your own society, right? A libertarian society. Well, what would be the first and foremost, or no matter even if you didn't call it libertarian, but any society that you want to construct for yourself, or the people you care about, with the people that you would consider or constitute your community. Well, what would be the first thing you want to do is we got to have some kind of rules of engagement here, folks. If we're going to deal with economics, which we're going to have to, because we're going to want to trade, we're going to have to exchanges. So what would we, I mean, this is the part, and if you talk to people, ask them, do you really think that you would have one guy to dictate how that happens? Or would it be that everybody sits down and agrees, and the only time you would ever find a document which is what the Constitution would represent, whatever your jurisdiction is.
Yep.
Everybody, and the only way you're going to get everybody to agree to it is if it has rules and principles that are universalized and consistent for everybody. Because the minute if we're 10 people sitting in a round table and we're trying to draft the Constitution or a Bill of Rights or anything to do like to govern how we engage with each other socially or economically, the first person that puts in the rules that says, okay, you 9 have to do this, but I'm just going to leave it here but I don't have to abide by it. Well, everyone else sitting on the table, they were like, no, that's not happening, buddy. That's right. So, and you wouldn't even need like a central planner or a dictator standing over top of the table saying, oh, you guys all got to agree. It would happen because people would recognize. Now, some people might want, like out of the 10 people, would some people like, hey, I'd like to be able to steal from people if I want to.
Sure.
But at least, the other 9's like, oh yeah, you might want that, but
but we don't.
For me, right? I don't want you stealing from me. Right. The other 9 people say whether they're greedy, selfish, like I say, it has nothing to do with skin color. It has not. It's just everybody would have to agree that okay, we're going to have a rules of engagement, just like when you sit down and play cards with someone, right? A game of poker. The only way you're going to play that game is if you all have to function on the same rules. The minute somebody's cheating, it's like, okay, I'm not playing with this guy.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's the Bellagio, right?
So all we really need is universalized rules of engagement for our social or economic interactions. And that's it. And like I say, libertarians are at the leading front of that. Like I say, and to me, it's not even if you don't want to call it like, I don't know if you would say I don't care what the label you want to put on.
Right.
It's the ideas are already out there, right? The ideas are already there is how we do it. So it's just a matter of getting enough people to accept and adopt them. That's and I don't even understand, like, even if you're a lefty, which I would imagine like they're probably sick and tired of when right-winger governments come to power and dictate.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, you folks would probably want the same kind of freedom.
It doesn't represent them either, right?
Right. So it's like, can we at least get to the point where we recognize that for all of us, even though I want freedoms, like for me in my certain way, you want we all have preferences, but what is the only way that we would ever come together and want to interact and engage socially economically where we would feel that we're being treated properly? Well, it would be as if we're held to the exact same rules as everyone else, right? And we do that even when we raise our kids. Like, well, not all parents, but even when you raise your kids, you recognize, like, if you don't want your kids to be violent and you're violent yourself, you recognize that you're being a hypocrite. Even if you still continue to do the wrong thing, you at least in your mind. So I think every human being, even at the lower end of the IQ scale, I think we're all competent enough as adults to realize
for sure.
Between
I have faith in people. I do. Now they're
not for the basics, right? I'm not for the basics, right?
Yeah, and that's the whole point of this. And I think people get lost. I seen someone in the chat say, well, what was you've tried to explain this thing to members and they say they can't do, it's easier to do nothing. And then once you give power away, it's hard to get it back. Well, that's not true. That's not true. That's your belief system. You've been taught to believe that. How do you walk away from the government? Let me show you. It's that simple. It really is. If you believe it not to be true, it won't be true. Just like Bennett said with Santa Claus. If you believe Santa Claus isn't real anymore, you just believe it's not to be true. It doesn't represent the truth anymore. You've learned it isn't the truth. So now I've told you today, I've told every one of you today that the government is de facto illegal and unlawful. Bennett here has also, said the same thing. They're not your ruler. They're not allowed to do it. The gun makes them do it. The gun allows them to put fear on you, right?
Yeah.
So how do you stop
it? Just being clear in like my thought process explains it. It's not like I even that's all that.
Yeah, it's just strictly so. I mean, we believe we can't do anything about it, and that is our belief system. They put that on us. They put that wedge in there. Yeah. Think about how much division at every election happens between the people. Imagine if you took all that away and just said, here's the Constitution, folks. We don't have to vote. We vote on it once, right? And we all believe in that. Where's the division now in it? You're going to have small groups saying, well, yeah, I want to steal from you. Yeah, well, too bad, because I don't know, 90% of the population said, screw you. So you're going to have to go somewhere else, because that's not the way we operate here, right? So
I hate to point this out, Leo, but we busted Jake's bubble, man. Sorry about that, Jake.
There's a black pill. right? The black pill for Jake. Sorry, buddy.
but no, but anyway.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Like I say, but to me, so kind of getting back to and kind of we're back around to where we kind of started this conversation, and we can even tie it up fairly soon if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I do have to get.
I do want to have more conversation with you about lots of things. Sure, because like I said, it's important to do this stuff. But for today, just to dip toes in the water, we just kind of want to. But back to the whole PPC thing. Just like you, I was so gung ho. I was so excited having this as a means to show that if there is enough people that could come together, that maybe we can use the thought processes, the right philosophy, and then translate that to politics. But once again, that kind of solidified and showed me that, and we all put in a lot of work and effort. I mean, between all that are YouTubers, we did a lot. And I mean 300,000 is not tremendous, but I mean, there was 300. So what I learned from that is at least 300,000 people in this country, at least, are determined to challenge the status quo. So like it's definitely not nearly enough, but it's a starting point at the very least. But it did show me that the politics, because we're nowhere there in terms of the psychology or the culture of the country, that politics it's kind of a fruitless endeavor at this point in time, other than using it like what it's been predominantly being used in most recent times is like a disruptor for a certain party. So like, we don't want to allow the liberals to govern indefinitely. So you might want to flip it to different, but you're still at the end of the day, you're never going to get out from underneath of it. No. But because we at least bring together a whole lot of people that talk about if the 300 in the country that at least dip their toes in it, rather than when the politics is over, when the vote is over, when the election is over, rather than them just going back about their daily duties, if those 300 people, or at least a portion of those 300,000 people, stayed active, supporting your channel, my channel, or the people that were the ones that brought them into the fold of starting to think about these things to disrupt the status quo. Because if we don't, how do you get just like if you're standing out in the street, if you look up, you'll notice a whole lot of other people start looking up too. Unfortunately, people function with that collective or that group think mentality. And the reason why me and Leo aren't going to be able to be nearly as successful as we should be is because it's not that we're not confident in what we say or have the ability to say what needs to be said. It's that we don't have enough of people that are showing solidarity and supporting us. Because if I'm one guy standing alone, right, then everyone else can point to me as the nut bar, just like with Leo. If he's one guy standing alone, they can say, "Oh, Leo's a nut bar, Benson." But if we're all together and we got thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people, all kind of saying, "No, these guys know what they're talking about. We support them. We have disagreement on some things, but at least if we can show that we genuinely are a show of force." But what I've seen, like I say, as soon as the politics end, it's like scattered and went back into their back to whatever the hell it was they were doing before, and left all of us, and we're still trying to do our thing. But it's like, I can't do everything. I need your help, folks.
And Bennett, I'm still seeing. I'm with you on that. I don't mean to poo-poo, like I said, on Max or any of the guys out there trying to do that. But what I'm asking is, let's be real. Why are you, And then it's the whole, well, we need to attack on different fronts. Come on, that's just dividing. You're helping them win. Vote for this and then vote for that, and then arguments, and it's good. Anyway, the whole point, and I agree with you 100%. If those 300,000 people parked that crap and said, how do we do this? How do we get rid of this once and for all? Because every 4 years you're rolling the dice in the casino and you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So why not do it permanently? Why not fix this permanently? 300,000 people got together and did something. It didn't work. You've seen how the establishment protects itself. Don't fool yourself into thinking, well, we only had a year and we did the best we could. No, it was done by design. You were attacked.
Yeah,
you were attacked by all parties, all of them. They didn't even want you in the debates. Okay, so the system is not there for the truth. The system is there to steal from you and I.
Yeah.
So they need to understand that. Get off their horses, their cognitive dissonance, and understand that we're leading these people astray if we want them to go back to the Bellagio, right?
Yeah,
they need to understand that too.
And those 300,000 people, like I say, it's definitely a very tiny fraction of the population. But if you understand the Pareto distribution principle.
Right.
And the kind of people that are properly incentivized, because that's the thing, the kind of that 300,000 people who are incentivized to go above and beyond to challenge the status quo, because that means they're willing to forego a lot of the shit, the benefits that they would have gained by maintaining the status quo. So they're people that have a certain level of, I would imagine, competence in comparison contrast to most of their status counterparts. That means that 300,000, if rather than just worrying about the politics every 4 years, if they invested their efforts into not just showing up to vote once every few years, but take that effort that you put in, because the Pareto, well, if you understand the Pareto distribution principle, is basically a tenth in any environment. Basically, 1/10 of the population does half of the work, right? Same with any work environment. You go and work in it for any employer, you recognize that there's only a tiny majority or a tiny minority of the people in that organization that does basically half the work, and the rest of them kind of make up the rest of the 50% because they're not nearly as efficient or competent or knowledgeable or have as much skills in the trades or whatever the heck they're doing. But that 300,000 Canadians, like I say, if they had okay, we get it, the politics isn't working right now, but each one of those people and across all the ridings in this country, start not just watching our videos, but start organizing events or meetups or things where you're actually talking about what can we do each. And if in all these communities, even if it was just 330 communities, 38 communities across this country, like that can have a profound effect on all those people, because they, like I say, they are incentivized and they probably are in a better position. And maybe people in their community recognize that these are people that they should trust because they're competent. I mean, obviously, if they're all about shrinking the size and scope of government, chances are you're probably not relying on government because you're not going to shoot yourself in the foot. So you're probably someone that is a leader in real life that, hey, look, I've shown how you can go through your whole life without relying on government. So lead by example. And obviously you can't if you're just going to lead by example by saying, well, here, if you just go out and vote for this party once every 4 or 5 years, well, that's not going to work. But like I say, for the PPC folks in particular, we got to put aside, keep the politics, don't forget about it. But let's put that at least on the back burner for now and get together in terms of supporting each other so we can come up with not just ideas, but literally show that we are a force. Like we have, because with it divided, we're all going to be conquered. We can all be picked off one by one, and I don't want that to happen.
No, I don't either.
I want our country to be better going forward. And like I say, it's not even nationalism, but I recognize that the country I live in, it's called Canada. I'm not looking to unwind that anytime soon. I don't know how things are going to play out in the future, but at the very least, for this place that we call Canada, wherever the hell you are in this country, you probably want your freedoms. I want my freedoms. And we just got to work through the fog and the propaganda that's jammed in these people's head. And the only way we can counter that stuff is like when people like me are talking or Leo are talking, if you want us to be taken seriously, then you have to be willing to show up in large numbers, watching our videos, liking our channels, subscribing and when you see that, because that's the thing, when the rest of the Canadians see that, oh, look at this, there's actually, what's going on over here.
Right. It's the whole.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's that when I look up, everyone else is going to look up.
The 95% of the population, right? And I kind of poked fun at that, but I said, you want to see how true that is? Go stand in front of a building and look up. Watch how all the people will just blindly come and look what's going on, right? So that's the whole point. And you say you can't do anything, but exactly what Bennett said. You can share the information, you can share the channel, like, subscribe. You can get other people to come. You can tell them you need to join these conversations. You need to understand what's going on so that we can figure out a path forward for everybody. I'm under the understanding, I've kind of let go of nationalism as we see it. As you kind of said, I know there's going to be a small group moving forward. I'm hoping that there's a group of 8 million that want to come to, maybe the Republic of Alberta. We all gather there and get it going. I don't know. But for me, there's a huge momentum here, and we can be an example. We can be a catalyst, get it done. Once the 5% gets it done, the rest are going to, what the hell's Alberta? They did it. They did it. Well, how do we do it over here? Right. So you have to make it happen. Everybody's going to sit here and go round and round and round. Yeah. And that's why they don't care about what we're saying, Bennett, because we have nobody. Compared to Canada, we have nobody listening.
Yeah.
Right.
And once you've shown just one example and how you can do that, then people see, oh, so there is a winning strategy. We've been told all this time you can't do it. Well, you can, and that's that was one of the most fundamental reasons why the elitists in Europe and the bigwigs there were hell bent and determined to never allow Brexit to happen, and it still hasn't yet. We're still not out of the waters in terms of the UK, in terms of that. But once they've seen, like, let's say once the UK finally does get to leave the European Union, and they're still okay. Like, UK still doing all right, right? Not to say that I would at that point in time, because then if you're Scottish, maybe you want your independence from England. Maybe if you're Irish, you want your independence too. But at the very least, you're going to see one clear example where the sky didn't fall, chicken little.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. So you're okay. And if you could do that, just like here in Canada, if Alberta could do that, then the rest of the province, okay, so it can be done.
It can be done.
And now you've changed the psychology of all the point where it's not impossible. Because everyone says it's impossible until it's done.
Well, that's right. I mean, you look at, we break records all the time, and people are okay to get it. Well, you can never run faster than that, but this guy did. How did he do that? But nobody's willing to do it. You need that one person to say, I don't believe your story. I'm going to recreate my story, and I'm going to be faster than you. That's really what it is. It's a psychology.
And at the very least, the people that are watching this stream or anyone else that will be maybe later adopters and understand some of these concepts is the only way, like I say, the only way you're going to get out from under this stuff in terms of statism is people that are fighting against it. And the beautiful thing about people like me and Leo and such is that, yes, we are in that position, because the ones, just like you were saying, if someone does it and then it's done, well, then you see it done. But the only time that person, the kind of people that outdo or outcompete everyone else are that very tiny, every winner for everything that has ever happened. If it's a race of 1,000 people or if it's 10 people, people got to start to realize too, is it's always a minority. Like the winner is always a person or one team. Like if you win the Stanley Cup, you're one team out of, like, I don't know, a couple dozen teams or however many it is, not a couple dozen, but whatever it is, right? Or if you're in sports that are individualized, then that individual. So you got to recognize that it's people that are willing to not just step outside or think outside the box, but challenge, current orthodox. That's why people like myself that are people like, oh yeah, but he's so different than the rest. Well, that's the only fucking person that's ever
going to do something different.
If you're looking for the sheeple, like it's like all these sheep, and then there's the one black sheep, but he's got longer legs, he's more trimmers. Like, sure he looks like a weird outcast, but tell you in a race, because he's got longer legs and he's trimmer, and it's like, I put my money on him every time, because he's going to be, and he's not willing to play in the status quo. So even though we are a minority of either an individual or small group, just recognize that those are the very people that always through all of history. Galileo, one guy. Right? The rest of the entire world believe in the Ptolemaic system and how ridiculous, like, the universe was set up, or our solar system, and where the Earth was the center of it. It took one guy, and you can rest assured, back in the day, most of the people, his peers and his people in his community, and like, this guy's an idiot. Meanwhile, it proved out he was the guy, because that's the thing. Human ingenuity happens at the individual mind level. It doesn't happen collective. We're not the Borg. We don't have a collect. There's no such thing as the collective mind, right? We're all individuals. So if you're looking for true leadership in how we're going to get out of this, you do have to look to people like Leo and I, who represent the ones that are thinking outside the box and challenging the status quo. If you're looking to pick someone from within the status quo to reinvent or get outside the status quo, I don't know how that works. I really don't.
I don't know either.
You need people who are innovative, creative, and think it is box. That's really what it has to be.
I mean, at the end of the day, look, I have that mentality. I'm a contractor, and when I'm hired by a business to go there and consult, I work off of my own merit. And if I don't cut it, well, then guess what? I'm gone. Yeah. So every day I have to prove my worth. I have to add value. I have to do that on my own. And I understand that. That is my personal responsibility. If I fail, then I learn and say, I did something wrong there, and I got to figure this out. Was it me, or was it just, they just didn't see value in what I was doing, and which is fine too. That happens. But the point is, going through life, you have to understand how you can add value in it, how you can do this. If you're just floating along thinking someone else will do that for me, well, then you are a slave. You are a slave to the environment. And maybe people are happy doing that, but I don't. I see greater things for everyone out there. I see bigger and better things, and I think you can all do much better than you did yesterday, every day, by learning from what you failed at.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Well, anyways, Leo, like I say, if you want, I'll let you say basically final words and say whatever you want, and I'll probably take a break from the stream for today. The wife's going to be going to work. I tell you, normally I wouldn't rush, but she's going to work in about an hour, so I'll probably spend just a little bit of time with her before she goes. Actually, I'll just mention that she had she gave me a little bit of scare the other day.
Oh no.
Yeah, she went in we got a terrible snowstorm here.
Yeah.
And, fortunately, anyways, make a long story short, she did go off the road, but car was good. She was good. Everybody's like, she was safe, and we got her out of there. And we're a day later or two and say, okay, that was not a big deal after all. But we got about a foot of snow.
Oh man.
Have you guys had any snow your way?
Actually, right now it's snowing. But I mean, it's not staying. It's just melting as it goes. But usually May long weekend, we get about a foot of snow. And then lately we've gotten some in June as well. We get that really? In June, right at the beginning of June, we get another dump, but we'll see. It doesn't stay. But I don't know. Yeah, at the end of the day, Bennett, I thank you very much. That's why I said it's better that we have this conversation, because maybe the last time we spoke, the PPC was on both of our minds, and I'm not saying it was all for naught. It was just a learning lesson for me, and it sounds like for you as well. Just to see what the environment's like. You're going, okay, let's try it. I'll give it a go for everyone, because that's what you all believe in.
Right.
And we tried. But now we're at a different path. We realize that I don't care. You're going to go in, you're going to go fighting, but you're going into their you give up reality and walk into the casino, and you take your chances. And I'm not willing to gamble anymore. I'm just not, because I can't control the gamble. The odds are against us. All full stop. So all I can ask people is look around and start listening to channels like Bennett here, and ask yourself when it's all done. I mean, I wanted to mention this Spy Patriot. Wexit. No, I'm sorry. I don't believe in Wexit, the party, because they want to get in the game again. I held Peter Downing on my channel to the fire, and I said, are you willing? You want a party? Why? Well, we have to attack them on all fronts. Oh, okay. I'm out. So no, I'm in observation mode now. I'm not toting any party line. I'm looking for what's best for the individual, for you, for me, for Bennett. And I'm willing to have these conversations, take the criticism, as I'm sure is Bennett. And, we want to have these discussions with all of you and say, how do you see moving forward? And try and get to the bottom of it so that we can get it done, right? No more dancing around and waiting for politicians to get it done for me anymore. That's over. The power is here, and I'm hoping to empower all of you in the same way. And I believe you're doing the same thing, Bennett, and I totally appreciate that. And I'm glad you stuck with it, bud. I'm glad you did.
For sure. And like you say, Leo, it's not at this point in time. It's not just for my own self-interest, but like I say, I am someone that has sons, and I can't imagine. And I think most people, especially if you're a parent, I think most people want to, at the very least, not all, some people are a little bit too overly self-absorbed, I would suggest. But I think most people want, at the end of the day, to leave their children or their grandchildren with something at least remotely resembling a country that, gives them the actual proper freedoms and the autonomy and the sovereignty to act out however they want, as long as they're not causing harm to people. That freedom is so important for humans to actually grow and function and to flourish properly. And to me, I don't like to get alarmist, and I even try to keep things light at times, because if I'm always serious all the time, I think that would even probably deter people from watching. But every once in a while, and I'm going to do it right now, is stress the importance of, say, over the last 10 years, I've watched basically a century's worth of authoritarian creep happening in basically a decade, which I would have thought it would have taken Western societies maybe another generation or two to get this point. But no, people like Justin Trudeau, even Harper started the bailing out of the banksters and that moral hazard. I seen the writing on the wall at that time, and Trudeau has only stepped it up to he stepped it up to the nth degree in terms of and it's like all their cards are on the table. They're not even willing to hide them anymore, which tells you how emboldened they are, which suggests that we gotta hasten the pace. We can't just sit back here, and I don't want to, like I say, wait another 10 years, because maybe in 10 years, the thing that you recognize as Canada, just like Trudeau warned us about and threatened, as far as I'm concerned, is that, it's not going to be anything that you recognize. And like I say, I want it to improve, not get worse. And as we've seen for the longest time now, it's going in the exact opposite direction. So we kind of gotta get a little bit in panic mode, and that's why it's so important to me. Even me, I have an ego like everyone else, but I try to keep my ego in check. And when it comes to this stuff, I'm more than willing to even become more humble every day if I need to be, because I recognize how important it is for those of us to come together. I don't want to. I could have brought Leo on. It's like, let me just trump him in a couple things, and then I'll look, And the last thing I want to do, and that's what I mean. And nor would I do that with anyone. Why? Because it'll give me short-term pleasure. Oh, yay, I get to trump. But what fucking good did it do? Now I've destroyed so much extra work that I put in all these years to not just towards Leo, but the people that watch Leo's channel. So to me, what we all got to do, and Leo is obviously willing to do this himself, is put our personal shit. Listen, you do you, Leo. I would never try to tell Leo how to live. You do you, man, and I'll do me. But when we come in the social media sphere or in the public sphere, then we do have to put that shit aside, recognize that you're you and I'm me. But, for our personal freedoms, for the freedoms for future Canadians, it's so important that we come together. And like I say, outside of it or not behind the camera, if we all want to show up at a fucking pub night some night and argue, or maybe have a makeshift wrestling match where we kick each other's ass proverbially just for a joke, I don't even care about that. But like I say, put all this crap aside for now, not just me and you, because we've done it, but there's many other YouTubers out there too, where don't be egotistical. Don't make it just about your numbers, and all that shit, and just figuring about you want your particular style of government, because you got to recognize, it's just like we were talking about earlier. It's never going to be your style. And if we want to have anything remotely resembling a country or anything where we all have respect each other, it's got to be just like I said in the island, where it's not your way, it's not my way. It's the way it recognizes we're all individuals, and we have to respect the same kind of rules that are universalized for all of us. If we can do that, then I think we have a tremendous opportunity, because one thing about Canada is we have been the northern neighbor of U.S. since its inception, basically. And we know how important it is. We know what the tried and true methods and tactics are to get people into respecting and promoting liberty. It's just a matter of stop playing it where we're competing each other for looks or views or subscriber counts, and just put our egos aside and come together. And once we've done that, you'll see that the numbers will grow exponentially, because then people say, so there is something even remotely resembling a genuine movement, and it's not a political movement.
Right.
It's a movement that's ground-based, that's grassroots, that's just every Canadian in this country that gives a flying rat's ass about their freedom. And once the people recognize that, they'll jump on board. But because if you politicize it, then there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to sit in the sidelines. We've seen that happen under the PPC. But if we can do
70% of the people.
And if we can do it, me and Leo can be the first two right here today, starting this out and expand that out, and we can make this happen. I could see a tremendous amount of growth in terms of not just your support and my support, but support for all of each other in Canada that's fighting for our individual rights and freedoms, right? I think that can happen in a fair order.
It's just about having a voice.
And if it doesn't, it is what it is, and it's going to be what it's going to be. But at the very least, I'm sure Leo, and just like myself, I want to be able to rest my head at night saying I did everything I possibly could to make that happen. Not just for me, and not just for my wife, and not just for my family.
The future.
Yeah, but for the future of people that are going to have to take up the mantle and be born into this shit. And I worry about what the people in the future. Although if they're wise enough, they'll just say, "I'll never pay that stuff." Anyway,
One quick little note here, because there's a little bit of confusion. I see in the chat, people are talking. Look, not that I'm saying go vote, not that I'm saying I believe in the system, but if you really must go vote, and for the 70% of you that don't, that just say I'm not voting. If you want to protest, go down to the polling station, take your vote from the person, and give it back and say, please mark this down as refusal to vote. That is a protest against the system. It goes in to the count. They can no longer, it shows that you voted, but it's a refusal. You didn't vote for any of the parties, and it's a protest vote. It is a legal thing. It does go down in the statistics. 70% of you not voting, the politicians look at you and say, you're fine, you're okay. That's not a protest. That's them saying, these people are wonderful, they're happy. So if that's the way you want to be perceived, that's the way it will be counted. If you want to protest, if you really must go vote because you think it's your duty, go and refuse it. And the people at the table will get it. Oh, yeah, that's right. I have an envelope over here for you. And soon it's going to be a big bunch of friggin' bags that they're going to fill up because everybody's saying, screw the system, right? That's what they need to see. Anyway, that's my final thought on that. But not that I'm encouraging
but I would
the system, but if you have to vote.
I would just have to clarify just because I don't want people to get the wrong information. But that on the provincial level, that does happen in Ontario. You can do the no to vote, like none of the above.
Right.
And it does registered. But on the federal level, unless they changed it since last election, no, because I checked into that.
Oh, really?
If you spoil your ballot, it just doesn't get registered at all. So that's
not spoil though, but you have the right to
but they will get registered as a none of the above vote on the federal level. Like I say, you can check it yourself as soon as we're done.
I'm pretty sure I looked into that. There was a lawyer friend of mine. We both looked into that, and that's what they had said. He did it as well here in Alberta. So I don't know. Maybe it's it could be.
In Alberta. Like I say, there are provinces that have, because I know 100% that.
Federally though, this was federally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it may be just because they don't know, right? Because that's what he said when he went there and did it. The lady was like, oh, I heard of this. That's right. That there is something to do. So they may not know. So you may have to educate them about it too. But I encourage everybody to look into that. There is a refusal vote.
Well, at the very least, even if it was, whether it was officially recognized or not, think about it, in any jurisdiction or any place that you went to vote, if a substantial portion, because we got to remember, there's more people that sit on the sidelines than actually vote. So if you actually had that, whether they recognized it legitimately or not, but if they had to report on it the next day that, oh yeah, we had about 100,000 ballots, but 60,000 were people saying they just put a big giant X and said none of the above on it.
Yeah,
that would be a news story. So whether they officially registered it or not, it would be something. It would still be a way to send a message to the masses or to the ruling class. Right?
That would be a national protest. If we all said we're going in to spoil our ballots, the 70% of us, and we make the news report that. You're right. That would be a way to protest the system. We are going in, we are putting the X, we're spoiling it. So don't let the media tell you that it's just idiots that don't know how to fill out a card. We purposely did this.
Yeah.
So this is our protest.
They showed up at the polling station. Now you can't take your phone in while you're doing it. But if you had a large group of people and you recorded that, upload that on your Facebook page, now we're going in and we're going to like incentive. Like I say, we do have to get to these things where we're doing all these little individual actions to incentivize people to get out and do these things. Because it would, like the message, I've said this so many times before, which actually years ago, probably about 8 years ago, I was even considering starting what I called the none of the above.
None of the above.
I did a little thing. I started a Facebook
that would be great, Bennett.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But then I found out that, provincially it'll work federal. But at the very least, because what was driving me crazy at the time, and it's only been getting worse, although last election, I guess the numbers bumped up a little bit. But for the last couple elections before Trudeau come to power, and even this last one, it was still 9 point something, but there was it was between 10 and 12 million Canadians that typically sit at home and never vote. And when I looked at all the results, whether it was Harper's first term, the second term, when I looked at, or Trudeau's term, when you look at it, like 6 million is the best. Like every federal party in Canada that has ever won a federal election in this country in the last decade have done so with less than 6 million votes. That 10 or 12 million, and it was 9 point something that sat home last election. But if that 9 point, even at that lower number of 9 point, whatever, and 8 or 9 it was, if that almost 10 million showed up just to put a spoiler and say none of the above, think of the message that would send the ruling class. That means more than a majority, a super majority basically said, we don't want none of you dipshits. You don't represent us at all. Like the message that would send alone would be profound. It would be talked about like through all the media. The entire global media conglomerates would be reporting on, holy shit, you see what happened in Canada? the majority of that silent majority that lives and rests and resides in every country chose to sit up or get off their duff and come out and show that, no, we don't, the emperor's not wearing any clothes, right? That would be an amazing thing to see. And I hope someday that will happen. And hey, we can deal.
That's all we can hope. But, it's hard. It's hard to change people. Habitual, right? That's we just change is discomfort, and people don't like to be uncomfortable. So,
well, at the very least, I'm at the very least, I'm glad that me and you we're come together here, and hopefully, we'll once again try to expand the ranks here and try to get more and more people, and we'll just do whatever we can.
Yep.
And at the very least, I know that we're both trying our best to educate and inform the Canadian people, and I'm appreciative to know that you're out there. As a fellow fighter for liberty, and we'll have a couple more conversations as yet. Yeah, it's definitely not over yet. So I'll just talk to you on the next one, and I'll just give you a couple minutes to say whatever you got to say before we tie it up there, Leo.
No, I think I've said everything I have to say, but I know I just appreciate coming on the channel and having a conversation. Right
on, dude. Okay, I just want to say too, sorry for everyone in the chat. As you know, usually when I'm having a conversation, especially it's very engaging. It's how I was raised. It's, when you're focused on, even when I'm talking with someone, I put my phone down. It's just like a respect and courtesy thing. Although I should be still engaging in the chat too, but I'll be definitely talking with you fine folks in the chat in the next stream. But as you know, I wanted to have this conversation with Leo, and we'll have a conversation. And actually, I'm going to be doing a stream for the folks that have joined up the membership. I think I got 6 or 7 now, and now we can make our own little private. They can do a stream and just have a private chat for the members. So I'll probably do that and give you folks an opportunity. So maybe we can hammer out some ideas, but like I say, thank you very much, Leo, for having this chat with me. I hope everyone in the stream enjoyed this conversation. And I think what we can all take away from this is, we kind of got to step up our efforts here just a little bit in terms of putting our petty differences aside and kind of finding ways for more and more of us to come together, and not just to check a ballot off, but to have these really very important and profound discussions and give people something to be inspired and thinking about critically. So thanks again, Leo. You have yourself a great day. Everyone in the chat, have a great day. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bennett.
No problem, Leo, buddy.